Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
The story begins in a normal and peaceful environment where life seems completely ordinary. People are going to work, students are attending school, and families are spending their time in their daily routines. At first, there are no clear signs that anything dangerous is about to happen. However, small clues slowly begin to appear that suggest something unusual is occurring in the background. Authorities are investigating a mysterious situation near a biotechnology facility, and although most people do not understand the seriousness of it, the audience can sense that a disaster may soon begin. In the early moments of the story, the film quietly introduces the possibility that human activity may have caused a dangerous biological accident. A truck driver passes through a quarantine checkpoint where officials wearing protective suits warn him about a chemical leak from a nearby plant. The officials spray his vehicle with disinfectant and allow him to continue his journey. This short scene seems simple, but it suggests that the infection may have started because of scientific experiments or industrial mistakes. As the truck driver continues along the road, he suddenly hits a deer that runs in front of his vehicle. The animal falls to the ground and appears completely lifeless. The driver briefly checks what happened and then continues driving away. However, the camera stays focused on the deer lying on the road, creating a moment of suspense. Slowly, the deer begins to move again in an unnatural and disturbing way. The deer suddenly stands up with twisted movements that do not look natural for a living creature. Its body appears broken and stiff, yet it somehow manages to rise and walk again. This shocking moment reveals that the mysterious infection has already begun affecting animals. It also signals the beginning of the zombie outbreak that will soon spread among humans. While this strange event occurs outside the city, the story also introduces the main characters who are still living their normal lives. One of the central characters is Seok-woo, a hard-working fund manager who spends most of his time focused on his career and financial success. Because of his demanding job, he rarely spends quality time with his young daughter, Suan. Suan is a kind and innocent child who only wants to spend time with her father. She feels lonely because her parents are separated, and she lives mostly with her father in Seoul on her birthday. She asks her father for one simple gift. She wants to travel to Busan to visit her mother. Although Seok-woo initially hesitates because of his busy work schedule, he eventually agrees to take her there. Their decision to travel becomes extremely important because it leads them onto the high-speed train that will soon become the center of the outbreak. The train journey from Seoul to Busan is supposed to be a simple and peaceful trip. Many passengers board the train for different reasons. Some are traveling for work, some for family visits, and others simply for daily transportation. Among the passengers are several individuals who will later become important to the story. There is a strong and kind man named Sang-wha, who is traveling with his pregnant wife. There is also a group of young baseball players heading to a sports competition. Each passenger has their own personal story, and together they represent a small part of society traveling in one confined space. As the train prepares to depart, another unexpected passenger manages to enter at the last moment. A young woman runs onto the train platform, appearing frightened and injured. She hides inside the train without being noticed by most of the passengers or staff. At first, she simply looks like someone who needs help, but in reality, she's already infected with the mysterious virus. The train begins its journey at high speed, moving farther away from the city while the infected woman struggles with her condition. Her body shakes and she appears confused and weak. A train attendant approaches her in an attempt to help, unaware of the danger she represents. Suddenly, the woman collapses and begins transforming in a horrifying way. Her body stiffens, her eyes change, and she becomes aggressive and uncontrollable. Within seconds, she attacks the train attendant, biting her and spreading the infection. This moment marks the true beginning of the zombie outbreak inside the train. The infection spreads extremely quickly. The bitten attendant soon transforms into a zombie as well, and begins attacking other passengers nearby. Panic spreads throughout the train as people scream and run away from the violent attackers. What was once a calm and comfortable journey suddenly turns into a nightmare. One of the most frightening aspects of the outbreak is the speed at which the infection spreads. Unlike slow-moving zombies, in some stories, the infected individuals in this situation move rapidly and aggressively. They chase their victims with incredible speed and attack anyone who gets close to them. Another terrifying detail is how quickly the transformation occurs. After someone is bitten, they turn into a zombie within a very short time. This means that every attack creates more infected individuals, causing the outbreak to grow rapidly. The passengers soon realize that they are trapped in a moving train with no easy way to escape. The narrow train cars make it difficult to run or hide from the infected. Every door and corridor becomes a potential danger. As the chaos grows, people begin reacting in different ways. Some passengers try to help others and work together to find safety. Others become selfish and focus only on protecting themselves, even if it means abandoning those who need help. Seok-woo initially behaves like someone who only cares about survival for himself and his daughter. Because of his life as a businessman, he is used to making decisions based on personal benefit rather than compassion. However, the outbreak soon challenges his attitude. Meanwhile, characters like Sang-woo demonstrate bravery and kindness by protecting weaker passengers. He risks his own safety multiple times to help others escape from the zombies. The contrast between selfishness and compassion becomes one of the most important themes of the story. The outbreak does not only reveal the horror of the infection, but also exposes the true nature of human behavior during a crisis. As the train continues moving toward Busan, passengers receive limited information about what is happening outside. News reports suggest that violent riots and attacks are occurring in many cities across the country. These reports indicate that the infection is spreading far beyond the train. Entire communities are beginning to collapse as people transform into zombies. The government attempts to control the situation by sending military forces and establishing quarantine zones. However, the speed of the infection makes it difficult to contain. Inside the train, survivors attempt to move into safer train cars while avoiding the infected. They quickly learn that the zombies react strongly to movement and sound. This discovery helps the survivors develop strategies to avoid attracting attention from the infected. Silence and caution become important tools for survival. Despite these efforts, the number of zombies continues to increase. Every attack creates more danger and reduces the number of safe areas inside the train. The outbreak also forces many characters to confront their fears and make difficult choices. Some must decide whether to risk their lives to help strangers. Others struggle with guilt after failing to protect the people they care about. These emotional conflicts add depth to the story. Suan, the young daughter, represents innocence and hope during the crisis. Her compassion often reminds the adults around her to think about others. Even in the middle of terror and destruction, her kindness inspires moments of humanity among the survivors. The zombie outbreak, therefore, becomes more than just a physical threat. It also becomes a test of moral values and human character. As the story progresses, the train journey transforms into a desperate fight for survival. The once ordinary trip becomes a symbol of society struggling against chaos. The introduction of the zombie outbreak sets the tone for everything that follows. It creates a powerful mix of fear, suspense, and emotional storytelling. Through this dramatic beginning, the film prepares viewers for an intense journey where survival will depend not only on strength, but also on courage, cooperation, and humanity. The journey to Busan begins with what seems like an ordinary morning at a busy railway station in Seoul. People move quickly through the station with luggage in their hands. Announcements echo through the halls, and passengers prepare to board one of the fastest trains in the country. Among them are business professionals, families, students, and travelers who all have different destinations and reasons for traveling. None of them realize that this journey will soon become a fight for survival. The high-speed train represents modern technology, speed, and convenience. But in this story, it also becomes the setting for a terrifying disaster. This train, designed to move passengers safely and quickly across the country, will soon turn into a moving trap where escaping danger becomes almost impossible. The high-speed train itself is an impressive example of advanced transportation. It is designed to travel at incredible speeds while providing comfort and efficiency to passengers. Inside the train, there are several connected cars with comfortable seats, overhead luggage racks, and large windows that allow passengers to watch the scenery pass by. The train is normally used by thousands of people every day to travel between major cities. Its reputation for reliability makes passengers feel safe and relaxed during their journey. However, the same design that makes the train efficient also creates limitations. Because once the train begins moving at high speed, there are very few ways to escape from it. Among the passengers boarding the train are Seok-woo and his daughter, Suan, who plan to travel to Busan so that Suan can visit her mother. Their relationship is somewhat distant because Seok-woo spends most of his time focused on his demanding job. Even during the train ride, he continues answering work calls and thinking about financial decisions. Suan, however, is more interested in spending time with her father and enjoying the journey. Their trip seems simple and peaceful at first, representing a normal family moment before the chaos begins. The train becomes an important space where their relationship will gradually change as they face danger together. The train is also filled with other passengers who each bring their own personalities and stories into the confined space. There is a strong and friendly man traveling with his pregnant wife, showing concern and care for her throughout the journey. A group of energetic baseball players board the train on their way to an important competition, laughing and talking with excitement. Elderly passengers sit quietly while reading newspapers or looking out the windows. A train attendant moves through the cars, making sure everyone is comfortable and following the usual routine of customer service. All of these individuals create the sense that the train represents a small version of society. As the train prepares to depart, the atmosphere inside remains calm and ordinary. The doors close, the engine begins to move, and the train slowly leaves the station before accelerating to its full speed. Passengers settle into their seats and prepare for a peaceful ride. Some people open laptops to work, others begin conversations with their travel companions, and some simply relax. At this point, no one inside the train understands that a deadly infection has already begun spreading outside the station. The high-speed train soon becomes a powerful symbol in the story. Normally, trains represent progress, connection between cities, and the ability to move quickly toward a destination. In this situation, however, the train becomes a narrow and restricted environment where danger can spread rapidly. The same speed that allows the train to travel efficiently also prevents passengers from easily leaving once something goes wrong. This creates an intense feeling of tension because the characters are trapped in a moving space surrounded by limited exits. As the train travels farther from Seoul, the passengers remain unaware that chaos is beginning to spread in other parts of the country. News reports and emergency alerts slowly begin appearing on phones and television screens. But most people do not immediately understand the seriousness of the situation. Some assume the reports describe small riots or isolated incidents. Meanwhile, the infection continues, spreading quietly in the background. Inside the train, the passengers continue their routines. The baseball team members joke with each other and talk about their upcoming game. The pregnant woman rests while her husband carefully watches over her, making sure she remains comfortable during the ride. Suan looks out the window at the passing scenery, enjoying the experience of traveling. These calm moments highlight the contrast between normal life and the terror that is about to appear. The design of the train plays a major role in shaping the events that follow. Each train car is connected by narrow doors and small corridors that allow passengers to move between sections. Under normal circumstances, these connections allow easy movement throughout the train. However, when danger appears, these narrow spaces become difficult escape routes. The train's structure forces people to move in limited directions, which increases the tension and danger during the outbreak. As the train continues speeding across the countryside, one passenger begins to behave strangely. An injured woman who boarded the train at the last moment hides inside one of the train cars. She appears weak, confused, and frightened, but at first the other passengers assume she simply needs medical help. No one realizes that she is already infected with a deadly virus that will soon spread throughout the train. The moment when the infection finally appears inside the train changes everything. The infected passenger suddenly collapses and begins transforming in a horrifying way. Her body stiffens and her behavior becomes aggressive and violent. Within seconds, she attacks a train attendant, biting her and spreading the infection. Because the train is moving at such high speed, there is no immediate way for the passengers to escape from this new threat. The high-speed train quickly transforms from a comfortable travel space into a battlefield between the living and the infected. Panic spreads as passengers begin running through the narrow aisles trying to avoid the attacking zombies. People push past each other in desperate attempts to reach safer areas of the train. The confined space makes it difficult to maintain distance from the infected, which allows the virus to spread rapidly. Another frightening aspect of the situation is that the passengers cannot easily stop the train or leave it. The train is controlled by the conductor in the front cabin, and communication between different sections becomes difficult as the chaos grows. Passengers in some cars remain unaware of the danger at first, while others are already fighting for survival. The speed of the train adds another layer of tension to the story. As it moves rapidly toward Busan, the survivors must make quick decisions about how to protect themselves and reach safer areas. Every moment counts, because the infection spreads quickly through bites and attacks. The passengers realize that staying in one place may lead to certain death. But moving through the train also carries great risk. Some characters begin working together to fight back against the zombies and protect others. Strong individuals attempt to block doors, hold back attackers, and guide weaker passengers towards safer train cars. Cooperation becomes an important survival strategy in this confined environment. However, not everyone behaves bravely. Fear causes some passengers to become selfish and suspicious of others. Certain individuals refuse to allow survivors from infected train cars to enter their section, believing that isolation will keep them safe. These decisions create conflict among the passengers and reveal the darker side of human behavior during a crisis. The train's limited space forces characters to confront these moral choices directly. In such a confined environment, it becomes impossible to ignore the suffering of others. People must decide whether to help strangers or focus only on their own survival. Meanwhile, the train continues racing toward Busan, one of the few cities rumored to still be safe from the outbreak. This destination becomes a symbol of hope for the survivors. If they can reach Busan, they believe they may find military protection and safety from the spreading infection. The moving train therefore becomes both a prison and a path to possible survival. The passengers are trapped inside it with the infected, yet it also carries them toward what might be their only chance of rescue. As the outbreak spreads from one train car to another, survivors begin forming small groups for protection. They plan ways to move through the train while avoiding large groups of zombies. The narrow corridors require careful coordination and courage. Some passengers use objects such as luggage, clothing, and barriers to block the infected or distract them. These small strategies help them survive temporarily while they search for safer areas. Throughout this struggle, the train continues moving relentlessly forward, unable to stop easily in the middle of the crisis. The conductor attempts to maintain control of the train while communicating with railway authorities for instructions. Outside the train, the situation in the country continues to worsen. News reports reveal that the infection has spread rapidly to many cities, causing widespread panic and violence. Military forces are deployed, but they struggle to contain the outbreak. Inside the train, the survivors remain focused on reaching Busan before the infection overtakes them completely. Every passing minute brings them closer to their destination, but also increases the danger inside the train. The high-speed train, therefore, becomes more than just a location in the story. It represents the fragile boundary between safety and chaos. In such a confined space, the outbreak spreads quickly and forces people to confront their fears and moral choices. The train also symbolizes modern society, where people from different backgrounds and social classes share the same environment. During the crisis, these differences become less important than cooperation and compassion. As the journey continues, the train's speed, structure, and limited space intensify every moment of the story. Passengers must adapt quickly to survive in a constantly changing and dangerous situation. What once began as a simple trip across the country becomes a desperate race against time. The survivors must navigate through the infected while hoping the train will carry them to safety before it is too late. Through the setting of the high-speed train, the story creates a powerful combination of suspense, action, and emotional conflict. The moving train keeps the characters constantly on edge, knowing that they cannot escape the danger unless they reach their final destination. In the end, the train journey becomes a symbol of both fear and hope. The emotional core of the story in Train to Busan is the relationship between Seok-woo and his young daughter, Suwon. At the beginning of their journey, their bond is strained and distant. Seok-woo is a successful fund manager who spends most of his time focusing on his demanding job and financial responsibilities. Because of his busy career, he rarely has the opportunity to spend meaningful time with his daughter. Suwon, however, longs for her father's attention and affection. She feels lonely living with him after her parents separated, and this emotional distance becomes the starting point of their journey together. Suan is portrayed as a kind and thoughtful child who values family connections more than material gifts. On her birthday, she makes a simple request to her father. She wants to travel to Busan to visit her mother. Unlike many children who might ask for toys or expensive presents, Suan only wishes to see the parent she misses deeply. This request places Seok-woo in a difficult position because he is accustomed to prioritizing work over personal matters. However, he eventually agrees to take her to Busan, believing the trip will be a quick and manageable task. The train journey from Seoul to Busan begins as a routine trip, but it also becomes an opportunity for Seok-woo and Suan to spend time together. At the start of the journey, Seok-woo still behaves like a busy businessman. He spends much of his time answering phone calls and discussing financial issues with colleagues. Even while sitting next to his daughter on the train, his attention often drifts back to work. This behavior highlights the emotional gap between father and daughter. Suan, on the other hand, remains patient and hopeful that her father will pay more attention to her. She observes the passengers around them, looks out the train window, and quietly tries to enjoy the journey. Her calm and innocent personality contrasts with her father's serious and distracted attitude. These early moments show how different their perspectives on life are. As the train travels toward Busan, the unexpected zombie outbreak begins, turning their peaceful journey into a terrifying struggle for survival. When chaos erupts inside the train, Seok-woo's first instinct is to protect his daughter at all costs. The sudden danger forces him to shift his focus away from work and concentrate entirely on keeping Suan safe. This crisis becomes the turning point in Seok-woo's character development. The businessman who once prioritized profit and personal success now faces a situation where money and status have no value. Survival depends on courage, quick thinking, and cooperation with others. More importantly, he begins to understand the importance of being a responsible and caring father. During the outbreak, Suan's innocence and compassion become powerful influences on her father. Even in the middle of fear and chaos, she continues to care about the well-being of others. She feels sympathy for injured passengers and worries about people who are left behind. Her empathy reminds Seok-woo that survival is not only about protecting themselves, but also about helping others when possible. One of the most significant aspects of their journey is how Suan challenges her father's earlier selfish mindset. At the beginning of the story, Seok-woo often advises his daughter to think only about protecting themselves. He believes that trusting strangers can be dangerous. However, Suan disagrees with this idea and believes that people should help each other in times of need. As they encounter other survivors on the train, including a strong and caring man traveling with his pregnant wife, Seok-woo gradually learns that cooperation is essential. Working together allows them to overcome dangerous obstacles and move through the train safely. These experiences begin to change Seok-woo's perspective on life. The confined environment of the train intensifies every emotional moment between father and daughter. With danger constantly surrounding them, they must rely on each other for strength and reassurance. Suan trusts her father completely, believing he will protect her no matter what happens. This trust motivates Seok-woo to take greater risks to ensure her safety. Throughout their journey, Seok-woo becomes increasingly protective and courageous. He fights against the infected, blocks doors to keep zombies away, and searches for safer areas within the train. Each action he takes demonstrates his growing commitment to his daughter's survival. At the same time, Suan provides emotional support to her father in subtle ways. Her calm presence helps him remain focused during moments of panic. When other passengers become frightened or lose hope, Suan's kindness reminds everyone that compassion still exists, even during disaster. Their journey also highlights the importance of family bonds. Despite the terrifying situation, the love between father and daughter becomes stronger with every challenge they face together. The crisis forces Seok-woo to realize that spending time with his daughter is far more important than any business success. Another important element of their relationship is trust. Suan trusts her father to guide and protect her, while Seok-woo learns to respect his daughter's moral values. Her sense of fairness and kindness influences many of his decisions during the crisis. As the outbreak spreads through the train, Seok-woo repeatedly risks his life to move Suan toward safer train cars. These dangerous journeys through narrow corridors filled with zombies require bravery and determination. Every step they take brings them closer to safety, but also exposes them to greater danger. The emotional weight of their journey becomes stronger as they witness the struggles of other passengers. Seeing families separated and people sacrificing themselves for others deepens Seok-woo's understanding of responsibility and compassion. In many ways, Suan represents hope and innocence within a collapsing world. While adults around her sometimes act selfishly or fearfully, she continues to believe in helping others. Her perspective reminds viewers that kindness can still exist even in the darkest circumstances. Seok-woo's transformation as a father is one of the most powerful themes in the story. At the beginning of the journey, he measures success through wealth and professional achievement. By the end of the journey, he realizes that true success lies in protecting and caring for the people he loves. Their journey to Busan therefore becomes more than just a physical trip across the country. It becomes a personal journey of growth, love, and sacrifice. Through the challenges they face together, both father and daughter develop a deeper understanding of each other. The train itself becomes a symbol of their shared struggle. As it moves relentlessly toward its destination, Seok-woo and Suan must navigate through danger, fear, and uncertainty. Each moment they survive together strengthens their bond. Even in the middle of chaos, small moments of tenderness appear between them. Seok-woo reassures his daughter when she becomes frightened, and Suan holds onto her father with trust and affection. These moments remind viewers that love can provide strength even during extreme danger. The journey also shows how children can influence adults in powerful ways. Suan's compassion and moral clarity inspire her father to become a better person. Through her actions, she teaches him lessons about empathy, courage, and humanity. As the survivors move closer to Busan, hope becomes an important motivator. They believe the city may still be protected from the outbreak, and that reaching it could mean safety and rescue. For Seok-woo, reaching Busan also means fulfilling his promise to bring Suan to her mother. Every obstacle they overcome brings them closer to that goal. However, the journey continues to test their strength and determination. Each encounter with the infected forces them to rely on their courage and quick thinking. The relationship between Seok-woo and Soo ultimately becomes the emotional heart of the entire story. Their experiences demonstrate how love can inspire personal transformation even during the worst circumstances. Through their journey, the film explores themes of sacrifice, responsibility, and the importance of family. Seok-woo learns that being a good father requires more than providing financial support. It requires presence, compassion, and courage. Suan's character reminds viewers that innocence and kindness can influence even the most hardened individuals. Her unwavering belief in helping others becomes a guiding force for her father. By the time the train approaches Busan, their relationship has changed dramatically from the beginning of the story. The distant businessman has transformed into a devoted father willing to risk everything for his daughter. Their journey shows that crises often reveal the true nature of people. In Seok-woo's case, the outbreak reveals his capacity for love, bravery, and sacrifice. Ultimately, the story of Seok-woo and his daughter is not only about surviving a zombie outbreak, but also about rediscovering the importance of family bonds and human compassion in the face of overwhelming danger. The journey inside the high-speed train in Train to Busan changes dramatically when the first infection appears. Before this moment, the train is filled with ordinary passengers who are simply traveling to their destinations. People are talking, resting, looking out the windows, and enjoying the comfortable ride. The atmosphere inside the train feels safe and routine. However, hidden among the passengers is a young woman who has already been infected with a mysterious virus, and her presence becomes the starting point of the terrifying events that follow. Just before the train departs from the station, the infected woman runs desperately onto the platform. She appears frightened, injured, and confused, as if she is trying to escape something dangerous behind her. Security guards and train staff fail to notice her condition as she quickly enters the train at the last moment. Because she looks like a normal passenger who may simply need help, no one suspects that she is carrying a deadly infection. This small moment becomes extremely important because it allows the virus to enter the train, without anyone realizing the danger. After boarding the train, the woman hides inside one of the train cars. Her body begins to show signs of illness. She struggles to walk properly, her breathing becomes heavy, and she looks extremely weak. Some passengers notice that she seems sick, but they assume she may be injured or suffering from exhaustion. The train continues its journey at high speed while the infection inside her body slowly takes control. At first, the infected woman tries to move quietly and avoid attention. She collapses in one of the compartments and begins shaking uncontrollably. Her condition grows worse with every passing minute. The virus inside her spreads rapidly through her body, causing intense pain and strange physical reactions. These early moments create suspense because viewers can sense that something terrible is about to happen. A train attendant eventually notices the woman lying on the floor and approaches her with concern. The staff member believes the passenger may need medical help and attempts to assist her. This act of kindness is a normal response in such situations. But it also becomes the moment when the infection spreads for the first time inside the train. Without warning, the woman's body suddenly transforms in a horrifying way. Her eyes change, her movements become violent, and she loses all control of her behavior. The virus completely takes over her mind and body, turning her into a zombie. Within seconds, she attacks the train attendant with shocking speed and aggression. The attack is sudden and brutal. The infected woman bites the attendant, spreading the virus through the wound. This bite becomes the first infection inside the train. At this moment, the outbreak truly begins. What started as a single infected passenger quickly turns into a chain reaction of infection and chaos. The bitten attendant tries to escape, but soon begins experiencing the same terrifying symptoms. Her body becomes stiff, her breathing becomes irregular, and she collapses as the virus spreads through her system. Within a short time, she also transforms into a zombie, attacking other passengers nearby. The infection begins multiplying rapidly. Passengers inside the train car are shocked and confused by the sudden violence. Many of them do not immediately understand what is happening. Some believe the attackers may be mentally unstable individuals rather than infected zombies. This confusion delays their reaction and allows the virus to spread even faster. As more passengers become infected, panic spreads throughout the train car. People begin screaming and running through the narrow aisles trying to escape from the attackers. The confined environment of the train makes it extremely difficult to move freely, and this limited space helps the infection spread quickly from one person to another. The speed of the infection becomes one of the most frightening aspects of the outbreak. Once someone is bitten, they transform into a zombie within a short period of time. This rapid transformation means that every attack increases the number of infected individuals. In just a few minutes, several passengers in the train car have already become zombies. Another terrifying detail is how aggressively the infected behave. They move quickly, chase their victims, and attack without hesitation. Their movements are unnatural and violent, creating a terrifying atmosphere for everyone trapped inside the train. The passengers who manage to escape the initial attack run toward other train cars, seeking safety. However, many people in the other sections of the train still have no idea that an outbreak has begun. When frightened passengers burst through the doors, warning others about the danger, confusion spreads throughout the train. Some people initially refuse to believe the warnings. They assume the situation may simply involve a fight or a medical emergency. Unfortunately, the infected soon follow, proving that the threat is real and extremely dangerous. The train's narrow design becomes a major problem during this moment. The aisles between seats are tight, and the doors between train cars limit movement. Passengers must push through crowds to escape from the approaching zombies. Meanwhile, Seok-woo and his daughter Suan are still unaware of the full danger when the first infection spreads. They notice unusual commotion in nearby train cars, but do not yet understand what is happening. As frightened passengers run past them, the situation quickly becomes clear. Seok-woo's protective instincts immediately activate when he realizes that violent attackers are moving through the train. His main focus becomes protecting his daughter from the chaos around them. This moment marks the beginning of his transformation from a distant businessman into a determined and protective father. Other passengers also react differently to the crisis. Some individuals attempt to help others escape, while some become overwhelmed by fear and panic. The outbreak reveals how differently people behave when faced with sudden danger. One of the key challenges during the first infection is communication. Because the train is divided into multiple cars, passengers in different sections experience the outbreak at different times. Some people still believe everything is normal, while others are already fighting for survival. As the infected spread through the train, survivors begin searching for ways to block doors and prevent the zombies from entering their sections. They use luggage, clothing, and other objects to create temporary barriers. These small efforts slow the infected, but cannot completely stop them. The speed of the train adds another layer of tension to the situation. The passengers cannot simply leave the train while it is moving at high speed. They are trapped inside a fast-moving vehicle with a rapidly spreading infection. The conductor at the front of the train receives reports about the chaos spreading among the passengers. However, it is difficult for him to fully understand the situation while trying to maintain control of the train. Meanwhile, the survivors begin forming small groups to protect each other. Working together becomes essential because individuals alone cannot fight against large numbers of infected attackers. The first infection also reveals an important weakness of the zombies. They are extremely sensitive to movement and sound, which means that staying quiet can sometimes help survivors avoid detection. Despite discovering this weakness, the survivors still face overwhelming danger. Every mistake or loud noise can attract the attention of nearby zombies. As the outbreak grows, the once peaceful train becomes a terrifying battlefield. Seats are overturned, passengers run through the aisles, and desperate attempts to escape continue throughout the train. The first infection, therefore, represents the turning point of the entire story. It transforms the train from a safe environment into a dangerous and unpredictable place where survival becomes the main goal. Before this moment, the journey to Busan was simply a routine trip for the passengers. After the infection appears, every second becomes a struggle against fear, chaos, and the rapidly spreading virus. The first infection also sets the tone for the rest of the story. It introduces the terrifying speed of the virus, the violent behavior of the infected, and the desperate fight for survival that the passengers must face. In many ways, this moment shows how quickly normal life can collapse. A single infected passenger is enough to create a chain reaction that threatens everyone on board. From this point forward, the survivors must rely on courage, quick thinking, and cooperation to stay alive. The outbreak inside the train continues to grow, turning the journey to Busan into a desperate race against time. When the infection first begins to spread inside the train in Train to Busan, the passengers initially struggle to understand what is happening around them. At first, many people believe they are witnessing a simple fight or a medical emergency. However, as more people begin to scream and run through the train cars, the reality of the situation slowly becomes clear. Fear spreads rapidly among the passengers as they realize that something extremely dangerous is happening inside the train. The narrow train cars quickly fill with confusion and noise. Passengers who have seen the attacks try to warn others, but their words sound unbelievable. Some people shout that there are violent attackers moving through the train, while others insist that passengers should stay calm and wait for the train staff to solve the problem. This disagreement causes even more confusion and delays the passengers from taking immediate action. Soon the infected individuals begin entering different train cars, and the terrifying truth becomes impossible to ignore. People witness the infected attacking others with uncontrollable aggression. Victims are bitten and then suddenly transform into the same violent creatures. These horrifying transformations shock everyone who sees them, and panic spreads throughout the train almost instantly. Passengers begin running in all directions, trying to escape the infected. The narrow aisles between seats make movement extremely difficult. People push past one another, climb over luggage, and struggle to reach the doors connecting different train cars. The once orderly environment of the train becomes chaotic and dangerous within seconds. Many passengers shout desperately for help, while others try to protect their family members and friends. Parents grab their children and pull them close, hoping to keep them safe from the attackers. Some individuals attempt to hide behind seats or inside small compartments, believing that staying out of sight might protect them from the infected. The sound of screams and running footsteps echoes through the train cars. Fear spreads not only because of the infected, but also because of the reactions of the people around them. When someone begins running in terror, others instinctively follow without fully understanding the reason. This chain reaction of fear intensifies the panic among the passengers. As panic grows, it becomes increasingly difficult for people to think clearly. Some passengers make reckless decisions while trying to escape, pushing others aside or ignoring those who fall behind. The desire to survive sometimes causes individuals to act selfishly, focusing only on their own safety. However, not everyone behaves selfishly during the crisis. Some passengers attempt to help others who are frightened or injured. These individuals try to calm the crowd and guide people toward safer train cars. Their efforts demonstrate that even in moments of extreme fear, acts of kindness and courage can still appear. Seok-woo, who is traveling with his daughter Suan, quickly realizes how dangerous the situation has become. His main priority becomes protecting his daughter from the chaos around them. He pulls her close and searches for a safer place inside the train where they can avoid the infected passengers. Suan, despite being young, observes the panic around her with a mixture of fear and concern. She sees people struggling and crying, and she begins to understand that the situation is far more serious than a simple disturbance. Her innocent perspective adds emotional depth to the chaotic environment. As the infected continue attacking new victims, the number of zombies increases rapidly. Each new transformation creates even more fear among the passengers. The realization that anyone who is bitten can become one of the attackers makes the situation feel hopeless to many people. The confined space of the train intensifies the panic. Unlike open spaces where people might run away freely, the passengers are trapped inside a moving vehicle with limited exits. Every door leads only to another train car, and the train itself continues speeding toward its destination. Some passengers attempt to block the doors between train cars in order to keep the infected away. They use luggage, bags, and other objects to create temporary barriers. These desperate attempts show how quickly people adapt when faced with immediate danger. Meanwhile, the train staff struggle to maintain control of the situation. Conductors and attendants attempt to communicate with each other while also trying to protect passengers. However, the rapid spread of the infection makes it extremely difficult to organize an effective response. The panic also leads to misunderstandings among passengers. Some people accuse others of bringing the infection onto the train or spreading it intentionally. These accusations create tension and arguments, making the chaotic environment even more stressful. As the survivors begin to realize that the infected are attracted to movement and noise, some people attempt to remain quiet and still. They whisper to each other and move slowly in hopes of avoiding attention from nearby zombies. However, staying calm becomes extremely difficult when fear continues spreading throughout the train. Even small sounds or sudden movements can cause people to panic again, attracting the attention of the infected. Another challenge during the panic is the lack of reliable information. Passengers do not know how the infection started or whether it has spread outside the train. Without clear guidance, they must rely on their own instincts to survive. Some individuals try to contact their families using mobile phones, hoping to warn them about the danger. Others attempt to call emergency services, but the rapidly developing crisis makes communication unreliable. Despite the overwhelming panic, small groups of survivors begin working together. These groups share information, plan ways to move safely through the train, and help protect weaker passengers. The presence of children and elderly passengers increases the emotional tension of the situation. Many adults feel responsible for protecting those who cannot defend themselves, which adds to the pressure of making quick decisions. The panic among passengers also reveals the different personalities and values of the individuals on the train. Some people show remarkable bravery by helping strangers, while others focus only on saving themselves. This contrast highlights an important theme of the story. A crisis often reveals the true character of individuals. The outbreak not only tests physical strength, but also challenges moral values and compassion. As the infected continues spreading through the train cars, survivors must constantly move in search of safer areas. Each attempt to relocate carries the risk of encountering more zombies or causing further panic among other passengers. The sound of the train rushing along the tracks continues in the background, reminding everyone that they are trapped inside a fast-moving vehicle. The speed of the train means they cannot simply escape by stepping outside. The hope of reaching Busan becomes an important source of motivation for many passengers. They believe that the city may still be safe and that reaching it could provide protection from the outbreak. However, until they arrive at their destination, the passengers must face the terrifying reality inside the train. Every moment brings new challenges, new dangers, and new waves of panic. Despite the chaos, some survivors manage to remain focused and determined. Their calm thinking helps guide others and creates small moments of order within the overwhelming panic. Gradually, these moments of cooperation allow certain groups of passengers to move more strategically and avoid the infected. While fear remains present, teamwork begins to offer a small chance of survival. The panic among the passengers therefore becomes a powerful depiction of how people react during sudden disasters. It shows both the destructive effects of fear and the inspiring strength of human cooperation. Through these intense moments of chaos, the story demonstrates that while panic can spread quickly, courage and compassion can also emerge even in the most frightening situations. The terrifying events inside the train to Busan become far more dangerous when the virus begins spreading rapidly among the passengers. At the beginning of the outbreak, only one infected person is present on the train. However, the infection quickly multiplies because the virus spreads through violent attacks and bites. Within a very short time, what started as a single infected individual turns into a growing wave of zombies moving through the train cars. One of the most frightening aspects of the virus is the speed at which it transforms its victims. When a person is bitten by an infected individual, the virus enters their body and begins taking control almost immediately. Unlike many diseases that take days or weeks to develop symptoms, this virus acts within minutes. Victims first show signs of weakness, shaking, and confusion before their bodies suddenly transform into aggressive and uncontrollable zombies. This extremely fast transformation allows the infection to spread at an alarming rate. Every time a zombie attacks someone, the number of infected individuals increases. One victim quickly becomes 2, then 4, then many more. In a confined environment like a train, this rapid multiplication becomes incredibly dangerous because there are so many people in a small space. The narrow train cars make it difficult for passengers to escape from the infected attackers. Seats, luggage, and crowded aisles slow down movement, preventing people from running freely. This limited space allows zombies to corner their victims easily, leading to more bites and further spreading of the virus. Another reason the virus spreads so quickly is the aggressive behavior of the infected. The zombies move with unnatural speed and energy. They chase their victims relentlessly and show no hesitation when attacking. Their sudden bursts of movement catch passengers by surprise, leaving little time to react. The infected individuals also appear to lose all sense of pain or fear. Even when injured or pushed aside, they continue moving forward to attack others. This relentless behavior makes it extremely difficult for survivors to stop them or slow their advance. As the virus spreads from one train car to another, panic among the passengers increases. People who initially believed the situation was a small disturbance now realize that the entire train may soon become infected. The growing number of zombies creates a terrifying sense of hopelessness among those trying to survive. Communication becomes another challenge during the rapid spread of the virus. Passengers in different train cars often receive information at different times. Some people are already fighting for their lives, while others still believe everything is normal. This delay in understanding allows the virus to move through multiple sections of the train before everyone becomes aware of the danger. Seok-woo and his daughter Suan soon witness the horrifying speed of the infection. When they see passengers transform into zombies only minutes after being bitten, they realize that avoiding contact with the infected is absolutely essential. Even a single bite can lead to death and transformation. The rapid spread of the virus forces survivors to develop strategies for protecting themselves. Some passengers attempt to block doors between train cars using luggage and other objects. These barriers slow down the zombies temporarily but cannot completely stop them. Other survivors try to move quietly and avoid attracting attention. They begin to notice that the zombies react strongly to movement and sound. If the survivors remain still and silent, they sometimes manage to pass through certain areas without being noticed. Despite these discoveries, the growing number of infected individuals continues to create overwhelming danger. Every mistake, loud noise, or sudden movement can attract a group of zombies within seconds. Another frightening feature of the virus is how it removes the humanity of those who become infected. People who were once ordinary passengers suddenly transform into violent attackers with no memory of their previous lives. Friends, co-workers, and family members become deadly threats. This transformation creates emotional pain for survivors, who must face the possibility of losing loved ones in such a horrifying way. Watching someone change into a zombie forces characters to confront difficult decisions about survival. The rapid spread of the virus also reveals how fragile human society can be during a crisis. A situation that begins with only one infected individual quickly grows beyond control. Within minutes, the peaceful train environment collapses into chaos and fear. Passengers begin forming small groups to increase their chances of survival. Working together allows them to defend themselves more effectively and watch for approaching zombies. Cooperation becomes one of the few advantages the survivors have against the spreading infection. However, fear sometimes causes people to make selfish decisions. Some passengers refuse to allow others into their train car, believing that isolation will protect them from the virus. These choices create conflict among the survivors and highlight the darker side of human behavior during disasters. Meanwhile, the train continues moving rapidly toward Busan, the destination that many passengers hope will provide safety. News reports suggest that some areas of the country are already overwhelmed by the infection, which increases the urgency of reaching a safe location. The conductor and train staff attempt to maintain control while receiving limited information about the outbreak. Unfortunately, the rapid spread of the virus makes it difficult for authorities to respond quickly enough. As the infection grows, the survivors begin to understand that time is extremely important. Every minute that passes allows the virus to spread further through the train and possibly throughout the country. The rapid spread of the virus also changes the emotional atmosphere of the story. The train no longer feels like a place of travel and comfort. Instead, it becomes a dangerous battlefield where survival depends on quick decisions and constant vigilance. Passengers who were once strangers must now trust each other with their lives. Cooperation becomes essential for moving safely through infected areas and protecting weaker members of the group. Children, elderly passengers, and injured individuals rely on stronger survivors for protection. These responsibilities place emotional pressure on the characters who must balance survival with compassion. As the virus continues spreading, the number of safe areas inside the train becomes smaller. Survivors are forced to move frequently, searching for sections that have not yet been overrun by zombies. Each movement through the train carries significant risk. Opening a door or making noise could attract nearby zombies and start another wave of attacks. Despite these dangers, the survivors refuse to give up hope. The possibility of reaching Busan keeps them motivated to continue fighting and moving forward. The rapid spread of the virus therefore becomes one of the central elements of the story. It creates constant tension and forces the characters to adapt quickly to a changing and dangerous environment. The outbreak also demonstrates how quickly a small problem can grow into a national disaster when it is not contained early. What began as a mysterious infection near a biotechnology facility soon threatens the entire country. Inside the train, the passengers experience the terrifying speed of this disaster firsthand. Every moment reminds them that the virus is spreading faster than anyone expected. This realization pushes the survivors to rely on courage, intelligence, and teamwork in order to stay alive. Without these qualities, the rapidly growing number of infected would quickly overwhelm them. The relentless spread of the virus keeps the tension high throughout the story. It ensures that the characters can never relax or feel completely safe. In many ways, the virus represents uncontrollable chaos entering an organized and structured environment. The train, once a symbol of order and progress, becomes a place where survival instincts replace normal social behavior. Through the rapid spread of the virus, the story highlights both the terrifying power of the infection and the resilience of the human spirit as survivors struggle to endure the crisis. As the terrifying outbreak continues inside the train in Train to Busan, the remaining passengers quickly realize that survival depends on their ability to fight for safety. The rapid spread of the virus leaves very few safe places inside the train, forcing survivors to take action rather than simply hide. What began as panic and confusion slowly turns into a desperate struggle where groups of passengers must work together to stay alive. At the beginning of this struggle, many survivors feel overwhelmed by fear. They have witnessed the horrifying transformation of infected passengers and understand that a single bite can lead to death and infection. However, as the number of zombies increases, the survivors recognize that standing still or waiting for help will not save them. They must find ways to protect themselves and move through the train strategically. One of the first steps the survivors take is forming small groups. Being alone inside the train is extremely dangerous because a single person cannot easily defend themselves against multiple attackers. By staying together, the survivors increase their chances of fighting off zombies and protecting weaker members of the group. Among the survivors are individuals who demonstrate great courage and determination. Some passengers step forward to guide others and create plans for moving safely through the train cars. These leaders help organize the group and encourage cooperation, which becomes essential for survival. Seok-woo, who is traveling with his daughter Seok, gradually becomes more active in protecting others around him. At the beginning of the journey, he focused mainly on his own safety and that of his daughter. However, as the crisis grows, he realizes that teamwork and bravery are necessary to overcome the dangerous situation. Another important figure among the survivors is a strong and compassionate man who travels with his pregnant wife. He shows remarkable bravery by placing himself between the zombies and the other passengers. His physical strength and determination help the group push through dangerous sections of the train. Together, the survivors begin planning how to move towards safer train cars that have not yet been overrun by the infected. The train is divided into several sections connected by narrow doors. In order to reach safer areas, the group must travel through cars filled with zombies. This task requires both courage and careful planning. The survivors must open doors quickly, move through infected areas, and close the doors behind them before the zombies can follow. Every step carries enormous risk, and even a small mistake could lead to another infection. To protect themselves during these dangerous movements, some survivors use objects they find around the train. They wrap their arms with clothing, use luggage as shields, and push seats or barriers to block the zombies. These improvised defenses give them a small advantage during close encounters. One of the key discoveries the survivors make is that the zombies are highly sensitive to movement and sound. When the infected hear loud noises or see sudden motion, they rush toward the source aggressively. However, when the survivors remain quiet and still, the zombies sometimes lose track of them. This weakness provides an opportunity for the survivors to move carefully through certain areas. By controlling their movements and communicating quietly, they manage to avoid attracting the attention of large groups of zombies. Despite these strategies, the journey through the train remains extremely dangerous. Zombies often appear suddenly from hidden corners or behind doors, forcing the survivors to react quickly. Physical strength, quick thinking, and teamwork become essential in these moments. Some survivors bravely hold back the zombies while others move the group forward. These acts of courage allow the entire group to escape dangerous situations. Without such sacrifices, many passengers would not survive the journey. The fight for safety also reveals the emotional strength of the characters. Even when they feel frightened or exhausted, they continue protecting each other and searching for safer areas. The shared goal of survival brings strangers together in unexpected ways. Suan, the young daughter traveling with Seok-woo, plays an important emotional role during these struggles. Although she is a child, her kindness and concern for others encourage the adults around her to remain compassionate. She reminds them that helping others is just as important as protecting themselves. Throughout their journey, the survivors face difficult decisions about who they can trust and where they should go next. Some train cars appear safe at first, but soon become dangerous when new zombies arrive. The group must constantly adapt to changing circumstances. The fight for safety also exposes the darker side of human behavior. Certain passengers become fearful and suspicious of others, refusing to help those who are injured or left behind. These moments create tension and conflict among the survivors. However, the bravery of individuals who continue helping others shows that compassion still exists even during extreme danger. Acts of sacrifice and teamwork give the survivors hope that they can overcome the crisis together. The moving train adds another challenge to their fight for safety. Because the train continues traveling at high speed, the passengers cannot simply escape outside. Their only option is to keep moving forward through the train cars while avoiding the infected. Every door they open could lead to either safety or disaster. The survivors must gather their courage each time they step into a new train car, knowing that zombies could appear at any moment. Despite these dangers, the group continues pushing forward because they believe their destination may offer protection. Busan, the city they are traveling toward, is rumored to still be safe from the outbreak. Reaching it becomes their main goal. The journey toward safety requires constant cooperation. Stronger passengers help protect the weaker ones, while others watch for approaching zombies or search for safe paths through the train. These moments of teamwork highlight an important theme of the story. Survival often depends on unity rather than individual strength. By supporting each other, the survivors improved their chances of reaching their destination alive. As they continue fighting for safety, the survivors also begin forming emotional bonds with one another. Strangers who had never met before now rely on each other for protection and encouragement. These relationships provide strength during moments of fear and uncertainty. Knowing that they are not alone helps the survivors maintain hope even when the situation seems hopeless. The fight for safety becomes more than just a physical struggle against zombies. It also becomes a test of human character, courage, and compassion. Every successful escape from danger reminds the survivors that cooperation can overcome even the most terrifying obstacles. Their determination to protect one another becomes a powerful force against the spreading chaos. Through their struggles, the survivors demonstrate that bravery does not always come from physical strength alone. Sometimes courage means helping others, standing up against fear, and refusing to abandon those in need. As the train continues racing toward Busan, the survivors remain determined to reach safety. Each obstacle they overcome brings them closer to their goal. Their fight for survival shows that even in the darkest situations, people can find the strength to work together and protect one another. This determination becomes the key to enduring the terrifying outbreak. Ultimately, the survivors fighting for safety represent the resilience of the human spirit. Despite facing overwhelming danger, they continue searching for hope, proving that courage and cooperation can exist even in the middle of chaos. In the intense events of Train to Busan, one of the most powerful themes that emerges during the crisis is the courage and sacrifice shown by several characters. As the zombie outbreak spreads throughout the train, the passengers are forced to confront life-threatening situations that demand bravery, quick thinking, and selflessness. In moments when fear could easily cause people to abandon others, some individuals instead choose to protect those around them, even if it puts their own lives in danger. These acts of courage and sacrifice become some of the most emotional and meaningful parts of the story. When the outbreak first begins, many passengers are overwhelmed by panic and confusion. They run through the train trying to escape from the infected, often thinking only about their own safety. However, as the situation grows more dangerous, certain individuals begin to show remarkable courage by helping others survive. These people risk their lives to protect strangers, demonstrating that even during extreme chaos, compassion and bravery can still exist. One of the most memorable examples of courage appears when several survivors attempt to move through infected train cars to reach their friends and family members. Instead of abandoning those trapped behind doors filled with zombies, a few brave characters decide to fight their way through the dangerous sections of the train. They understand that the journey will be extremely risky, yet they refuse to leave others behind. Among these courageous individuals is the strong and determined man traveling with his pregnant wife. Throughout the crisis, he repeatedly places himself between the zombies and the other passengers. His physical strength and fearless attitude allow him to push back groups of infected attackers, giving the survivors time to escape to safer train cars. His actions show that true bravery often involves protecting others before oneself. Seok-woo, who begins the journey as a busy and somewhat selfish businessman, also undergoes a significant transformation during the crisis. At first, he focuses mainly on protecting his daughter and avoiding unnecessary risks. However, as he witnesses the sacrifices of others, he begins to change. Gradually, he becomes more willing to help strangers and face danger for the sake of others. The crisis forces Seok-woo to confront the difference between selfish survival and meaningful sacrifice. Seeing others risk their lives for the group inspires him to become braver and more compassionate. His transformation becomes one of the most important emotional arcs in the story. Sacrifice becomes especially meaningful when characters willingly place themselves in danger to give others a chance to survive. In several moments throughout the train journey, individuals stay behind to hold back zombies while the rest of the group escapes. These brave decisions are not made lightly. They require enormous courage and acceptance of the possible consequences. The confined space of the train makes these sacrifices even more dramatic. The narrow corridors and limited exits mean that someone often needs to stand their ground and slow down the zombies so that others can move to safety. These moments highlight the strength of individuals who choose to act selflessly during the crisis. Another important aspect of courage in the story is emotional strength. While physical bravery is necessary to fight off zombies, emotional courage is equally important. Many characters must remain calm and supportive even when they feel terrified inside. They comfort frightened passengers, encourage cooperation, and help maintain hope during moments of despair. Suan, Seok-woo's young daughter, also shows a different kind of courage. Although she is just a child, she displays remarkable empathy and concern for others. She often reminds the adults around her to help people who are struggling or left behind. Her kindness influences the decisions of several characters and encourages them to act with compassion. Her innocent perspective highlights an important truth about courage. Bravery is not always about fighting or physical strength. Sometimes it means caring for others, refusing to give up hope, and believing that people should help one another. The theme of sacrifice becomes particularly powerful when characters must choose between saving themselves or helping others. These difficult decisions reveal the true nature of each person on the train. Some individuals choose selfish survival, refusing to allow others into their train car out of fear of infection. Others choose to risk everything to protect strangers. These contrasting choices emphasize the moral challenges created by the crisis. The zombie outbreak does not only threaten the passengers physically, it also tests their values and humanity. The sacrifices made by brave characters often inspire others to become stronger and more determined. When someone risks their life to save the group, it reminds the survivors that their lives are connected. This sense of unity becomes an important source of motivation as they continue fighting to reach safety. As the train speeds toward Busan, every act of courage helps the survivors move closer to their goal. The bravery shown by individuals allows the group to overcome obstacles that would otherwise be impossible to face alone. These sacrifices also deepen the emotional impact of the story. Viewers witness characters placing the lives of others above their own, which creates moments of powerful emotion and reflection. The crisis reveals that heroism can appear in unexpected places, even among ordinary people. Another important element of courage during the crisis is leadership. Certain characters take responsibility for guiding the group through dangerous situations. They make quick decisions, encourage cooperation, and help organize the survivors' efforts. Leadership requires both confidence and compassion. The best leaders in the story do not simply command others. They protect and support them, demonstrating that true leadership involves responsibility for the well-being of the entire group. The sacrifices made during the journey also strengthen the bond between the survivors. When people face danger together and rely on one another for protection, they develop deep trust and understanding. These relationships become especially meaningful because many of the passengers were complete strangers before the outbreak began. The crisis transforms them into a community united by a shared struggle for survival. The courage displayed by the characters also challenges the idea that ordinary people cannot become heroes. Many of the individuals who perform brave acts are not trained soldiers or professionals. They are everyday passengers who simply choose to do what is right when faced with a crisis. This message makes the story more powerful because it suggests that heroism exists within anyone who is willing to act with compassion and bravery. The sacrifices made during the crisis also highlight the value of human life and relationships. When characters risk everything to protect others, they demonstrate that survival alone is not enough. What truly matters is protecting the people who make life meaningful. Throughout the journey, moments of courage give the survivors the strength to continue fighting. Even when the situation appears hopeless, acts of sacrifice remind them that their efforts are not meaningless. These moments of bravery create a powerful contrast with the fear and chaos surrounding the outbreak. While the virus spreads destruction, courage and sacrifice create moments of hope and humanity. The emotional impact of these sacrifices becomes one of the defining elements of the story. Viewers are reminded that even in the darkest circumstances, people can still choose kindness, bravery, and selflessness. As the survivors move closer to their destination, the courage shown throughout the crisis continues to guide their actions. They carry the memory of those who sacrificed themselves, using that inspiration to keep moving forward. In the end, the theme of courage and sacrifice reveals an important message about human nature. While disasters can bring out fear and selfishness, they can also reveal extraordinary bravery and compassion. The crisis on the train therefore becomes more than a battle against zombies. It becomes a story about the strength of the human spirit and the willingness of individuals to protect others even at the greatest personal cost. The ending of Train to Busan carries deep emotional meaning and delivers an important message about humanity, sacrifice, and hope. Throughout the film, the passengers struggle against the rapidly spreading zombie outbreak while trying to reach the city of Busan, which is believed to be one of the few safe places left in the country. The final moments of the story bring together all the themes that appeared earlier in the journey, showing how courage, compassion, and sacrifice shape the outcome of the survivors. As the train approaches its final destination, only a few passengers remain alive after facing countless dangers. Many of the characters who once filled the train have either been infected or sacrificed themselves to help others escape. The survivors are exhausted, frightened, and emotionally overwhelmed by everything they have experienced. The once crowded train has become quiet and nearly empty, reflecting the heavy cost of the outbreak. One of the most powerful aspects of the ending is the transformation of Seok-woo, who began the story as a busy and emotionally distant father. At the beginning of the film, he focused mostly on his career and financial success, often neglecting his relationship with his daughter. However, the crisis forces him to rethink his priorities and understand what truly matters in life. Throughout the journey, Seok-woo gradually learns the importance of compassion and responsibility. He witnesses the bravery and sacrifice of other passengers who risk their lives to protect strangers. These experiences inspire him to become a more caring and courageous person. By the time the train reaches its final moments, he has completely changed from the man he was at the beginning. The relationship between Seok-woo and his daughter Suan becomes the emotional heart of the ending. Suan's innocence, kindness, and belief in helping others have influenced her father deeply. Her presence reminds him of the value of family and the importance of protecting the people he loves. As the survivors get closer to Busan, the danger does not disappear completely. The infection continues to threaten them, and difficult choices must still be made. In one of the most heartbreaking moments of the story, Seok-woo realizes that he has been infected while protecting his daughter from a zombie attack, knowing that he will soon transform into one of the infected. Seok-woo faces a tragic but courageous decision. Instead of allowing himself to become a danger to his daughter, he chooses to sacrifice himself to ensure her safety. This decision represents the ultimate act of love and responsibility. Before leaving his daughter, Seok-woo shares a final emotional moment with her. These moments highlight the strong bond that has developed between them during the journey. His actions show that he is no longer the distant father who once ignored his daughter's needs. Instead, he has become someone willing to give everything for her future. His sacrifice also reflects the broader theme of selflessness that appears throughout the film. Many characters along the journey chose to risk their lives to protect others. Seok-woo's final act continues this theme and demonstrates how love can inspire extraordinary courage after his sacrifice. Suan and the pregnant woman who survived the journey continue toward Busan alone. Their survival represents hope in a world that has been devastated by the outbreak. Although the journey has been filled with tragedy, their presence shows that life continues even after great loss as they approach the city. Military forces guarding the area notice the two survivors walking along the railway tracks. Because the soldiers have been ordered to shoot any possible infected individuals, the situation becomes extremely tense. The soldiers cannot immediately determine whether the approaching figures are infected or not. At this critical moment, Suan begins to sing a song that she had been practicing earlier in the story. Her voice echoes through the quiet surroundings, revealing her humanity and innocence. The soldiers hear the song and realize that the approaching figures are not zombies. This moment becomes one of the most symbolic scenes in the film. Suan's song represents hope, innocence, and the enduring spirit of humanity. Even after experiencing fear and loss, she continues to express life and emotion through her voice.
Train to Busan 3 full movie review facts and details. Continue the saga of one of the most influential and beloved zombie franchises in recent cinema history. After the success of Train to Busan 2016, which set the standard for emotional and action-packed zombie survival films, and Peninsula 2020, which expanded the universe into a post-apocalyptic landscape, this imaginized third installment attempts to blend the emotional intensity of the original with the scale and ambition of the sequel. Fans has long speculated about whether a third part would return to ultimate character-driven survival story that made the first so powerful, and his continuation, the balance feels restored, offering both heart-wrenching personal drama and high-stake, large-scale zombie chaos. The story began year after the events of Peninsula, with South Korea still scarred and divided by the zombie outbreak. While much of the world has continued, the inflection pockets of undead remain, and Busan has become a heavily fortified city acting as both a refuge and a prison. Survivors struggle with authoritarian rule inside, while those outside face the deadly horror of romantic zombie. The third film introduced a new protagonist, a young woman searching for her missing family members who were lost, seen feeling toward the Busan zone. Her journey drives the narrative forward, echoing the themes of sacrifice, love, and desperation that defined the first film. Alongside her, a ragtag group of survivors, each carrying their own trauma and hidden motives, creating the tension and unpredictability audience expect. One of the strong elements of the third chapter is its return to the emotional resonance of original. while Peninsula leaned heavily into spectral and Mad Mix style action sequences. Train to Busan 3 are centers our narrative and human connection in the face of chaos. Character are developments, depth, and their personal stories instruct it way the highway, the cost of the survival. In particularly, the film revised themes a parental sacrifice, generational hope, and moral dilemmas about the deserve saving. When resourcing are scale, the human heart is what elevates it above standard zombie fare and keeps it in the line with the franchise legacy. The zombies themselves are once again a terrifying force, fast, relentless, and unthinking. They embody chaos, the spirits like wildfire. The filmmaker began the danger by introducing new scaries, underground tunnels, storm flooded streets, and challenging skyscrapers that amplify and fear factor. Practical effects are combined with cutting edge CGI to deliver sequences that feel raw, the immersive and standing sense future. Survivor trapped into a derailed subway and night, with the one light coming from flickering flare are waves of zombie pour in through scarred windows. The claustrophobic horror harken back to the original then sequences while raising the stakes with larger, more unpredictably set piece. As with the previous films, social commentary is woven seamlessly into the horror. This time, the focus shifts to question of government's control, imploitation for refuge, and the ethic of using survivor as test subject in depraved attempts to cure the infection. With the Busan fortified was occupation faster with military leaders prioritizing their own power over civilian safety. This created a dual threat, the Mandlands hordes outside and the routlets human inside. The film make audience question whether humanity currently and sometimes be as monstrous as the zombies themselves. The action sequences in Train to Busan 3 are nothing short of spectacular, from high-speed chases through zombie infected highway to hand combat to night. The film driver adrenaline pumping excitement while never losing sight of its emotional stake. Once particularly memorable sequence take place on a cargo ship attempting to evacuate survivor only for an outbreak one board to return it into a floating deep trap. The tension shows the eventual explosion of violence are the heart stopping and anything in the series. These sequences are carefully choreographed, combining thrill with a sense of dread that keeps view on the edge of their seats. The climax of the movie brings all the themes together in a final desperate push to escape both the zombie and the occupation within Busan. The survivor most much heartbreaking choices, sacrifices are made, echoing the emotional push of the first film ending. The protagonist's journey concludes with both tragedy and hope, leaving audience shedding but satisfied, much like the original. The final blanches despair with the fright glimmer of survival, reminding reviews that even in the darkest time, love and humanity endure. From the filmmaking perspective, Train to Busan 3 excel in packing tone and atmosphere. The cinematography captures both the break desolation of abandoned cities and the suffocating intensity of enclosed space. The score combines haunting melodious with pounding pressure during action scenes, heightening the emotional weight of every sequence. The direction wise I would oversaturated of CGI, keeping many zombie announced grounded and practical, which give the horror a tangible visceral quality. As for fact and behind the skin details, the franchise has always been known for pushing boundaries within the zombie genre, and his third film is no exception. The producing expertly profused on blending the intimacy of the first movie with the large-scale spectacle of the second, ensuring fans of both styles were satisfied. Cast selection emphasized emotional authenticity, with actors chosen for their ability to portray vulnerability and resilience rather than just physical prowess. Thematically, the film draws the South Korea history of resilience in the role of crisis, giving it cultural depth and well as universal appeal. Overall, Train to Busan 3 stands as a worthy continuation of the franchise. It honors the heart and emotion that made the first film a global sensation, which expanding on the action and world building that Peninsula introduced by balancing horror, action and human drama. It cements the series as one of the most unique and meaningful zombie sagas in modern cinema. It is not just a survival story, it is a medicinal and humanity sacrifice and hope against impossible odds. Fan of the first two films will find both closure and new possibility for the franchise. Fiction ensures that Train to Busan remain an unforgettable name in the genre.